know, the gravity is not just that apple falling from the tree, right? Hi guys, I wanted to talk to you about all weight is not created equal. What does that mean? When you're taught in physics, for the most part, you're taught that all mass is equal. Mass and movement are synopsis or in synchronized or go hand in hand, however you want to look at it, with a living organism. But one of the things I want to talk about when mass interferes with succumbing or opposing gravity. So when you're working with mass, right? So a lot of mass is derived as, like, did I look the same as yesterday, right? What do I weigh on the scale? That's my organization of gravity. It's not my organization of gravity. It's just a measurement. It means nothing, really. It's sort of like time is relative. Time is a measurement. Now, we can measure certain things and say there are certain, like if I say this is 2 mLs of milk or something like that. But mass, milk is not, in a sense, that living organism that I'm talking about. It's a creature or a human that opposes gravity using movement. When we're looking, let's say, at my mass, and we can, again, put me on a scale and go that route. However, let's say I have a diabetic surge. Okay, now, right now, I think my fasting glucose last week was at a 93, all within normal limits. What normal to science, right, and a form of measurement, is not normal to movement. So when I'm looking at just at what sugar does to my system in that sense, it throws off the rotational rate of my red blood cells, white blood cells, and throws off the nutrition that is absorbed due to sugar bangs, even though, sugar has some rotation to it, but it's got sharp edges and it starts scarring. It's like cut glass inside your arteries, and that's where you get hardening of the arteries. So let's say now my sugar glucose is 193, right? And then we're talking 293, 393. The human body, or any body, is that sensitive to a viscosity rate changes within the dynamics. Sugar is heavy, right? Have you ever picked up a 5-pound bag of sugar? Yes, it's 5 pounds. But when you go to pick up a 5-pound bag of sugar, it's 5 pounds, and it almost feels like it's heavier, even though you're weighing it and saying, okay, this sugar is 5 pounds. And so, but when you're putting something like that in a human being, so now the human being has movement structures, but now has to move this heavier blood. We're not organized for that. That kind of blood levels are going to affect the way we move. That's why when you tell someone who's a severe diabetic, you need to go for walks, they don't want to walk. It looks like they're lazy, but their mass weight differentials in opposing gravity is completely shot. So to overcome that, and then that gets into my series too of when mass supersedes the might. So now we're getting up to like 450 sugars, 550 sugars. Yes, that will have organ breakdown, but part of the breakdown is the body within the body can't even move that mass. So to say that same person was today 180, tomorrow 180, you cannot have that argument whatsoever that all mass is the same, right? Maybe in regards to my hair, but not to the way my system is. Just like, again, the way I eat a piece of lettuce today, if my sugars are at 93, versus the way my body processes a piece of lettuce when my sugars are 293. One of the things the doctors say is, if you think you're diabetic, is to just, every time you eat, you monitor right after you eat and so forth, because what you're looking for is what your body looks at as a Snickers bar. And it might be that carrot. It will process the carrot suddenly like a Snickers bar, and you'll get that insulin hit. And you want to stay away from those surges. And again, to one person it might be the carrot, and the next person it might be beets or whatever weight or their body processes. And this is where they came up where you can have certain foods that have high glycemic indexes and so forth because of the way we process, right? Well, now you're putting someone into outer space that now is processing without interior and exterior rotational movements. So now the way that they process food, and on top of that, they're not getting fresh lettuce. They're getting, the box foods, to say it politely, the processed foods, much higher. right? So the way the body processes. So some of the things that has to be looked at is how to increase, viscosity rate changes within the human bodies, that you're not getting these kind of insulin surges and hits because the body is processing it differently. And that's another thing is that's what an allergic reaction is. Your body's suddenly having a process differential that's different. So when someone's, like, I had a little boy recently just covered, and they just said it was eczema, and I'm like, this is an eczema. I've seen it before where it's a condition where the body actually is eating the proteins of the system. It's not pretty. Eczema comes in patches, but when the whole body, like, they literally looked like, I just hate to say it, a little cancer, like the hair couldn't grow, they just were cut, and the child's just scratching. And then one of the things you do not see with a child that's 2 years or younger is self-soothing skills. It's not like I have a tag back here or something like that, or I can scratch. You will not see a baby scratch. They won't, like, do their hair where they can take a follicle. They'll go like smear, you know what I mean? If they're even bothered. You can see little kids with like just hair in front of their face, and they won't think to move it out of the way, kind of thing. There's different processing skills that we go through movement as human beings. And again, gravity has a lot of play on that, because if the human being, the system, can't process that opposition to gravity, that mass weight differential, and it could be due to genetics, mitochondrial. Mitochondrial starts affecting certain areas of the body. It replicates up to 17 times faster than typical DNA, and those will have avenues of succumbing to gravity. Yes, you can blame it on that, just like you can blame it on an O-ring failure of a space shuttle, but at the end of the day, when the lack of rotation causes stresses to the system, and the stress has to go somewhere, that's when Newton's law comes into play, when the rotation is not there. So those are the things you want to look at when you're looking at movement, or some of the things. So again, let's say your child's on drugs. And I'm not talking drugs, what you'd call recreational, but you can go that route too. You're losing the rotational buildings, but like if you're talking about SMA, one of the things I notice, because my hands can pick up this mass, these weight changes really easily, just on a cellular basis almost, or an area, literally within a 1/16 of an inch difference. And that's one of my specialties, because I can catch these glitches, glitches, tons of them in the system, where the system goes from heavy, light, heavy. You'll see this in a lot of muscular dystrophies, like with SMA. Well, one of the things that SMA does to prevent, or to as a precursor, they get a quarterly dose of Spinraza, but one of the things it can take is a one-time shot, or dose of, I shouldn't say shot, but dose of, is it Zolgentrum? I'm bad with names, especially with drugs. But that Zolgentrum is much heavier on the system, sort of what I was talking about with sugars. So you're stopping the progression of the SMA, but at the same time, you really have to understand these principles to hit that system, so they can oppose the mass weight differentials, because that's where you can see also the regressions in. And it happens with a lot of different types of medication, but that's just an example. Thanks, guys.